Caution, you are about to enter the no-spin zone, and the factor begins right now. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Ingram in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Now, let's get right to our top story, the U.S. economy. It came to a screeching halt this spring, growing at an anemic rate of 1.5%. And if that wasn't bad enough news for President Obama's re-election chances, a new poll from Gallup shows that approval of him by American business owners fell in the second quarter of 2012 to just 35%. So, what will the political fallout be from these reports? Joining us now from Washington, D.C., economist Peter Morici and Simon Rosenberg, president and founder of NDNA. It's a center-left think tank. All right, gentlemen, great to see you tonight. Let's talk first, Peter, about these numbers, because 1.5% seems to be disastrously slow for a GDP growth. We need to grow jobs at about 200,000 per month pace, and right now our domestic output is cratering. What say you?
Well, we would have to grow at 3% a month to a quarter, to get the kind of jobs creation we need, and this is half that rate. Simply, consumers lost confidence in the second quarter. They don't believe Mr. Obama's policies are working. They're very skeptical about his criticism of the private sector, and this is just a terrible report. It means more lousy job reports this summer.
Simon, the president came out today with a new ad, and it debuted on national television. But saying I believe in free enterprise, I believe, that's nice. But the fact of the matter is, it looks like free enterprise isn't believing in him as it might have 2.5, 3 years ago.
Well, there's no question that I think that Barack Obama wishes the economy was growing at a more rapid rate, and that Mitt Romney wishes that it was growing at a slower rate. I don't think the economy is growing as fast as Obama wants, or it's doing as bad as Mitt Romney wants to
well,
to
I
get
mean, Simon,
for his
to
election.
Say that Mitt Romney wants the economy to crater.
Laura, I'm going to answer your question.
That's ridiculous.
That's okay.
But go ahead.
That's okay. So I think the point of this is that I don't think the economy is growing as fast as Obama wants or as slow as Mitt Romney's campaign needs for Barack to get unelected. Barack, in the latest polling, is still up by 6 points in the Wall Street Journal poll. If the election were held today, he would win. I mean, that's the opinion that matters most in the United States, the opinion of the voters. And I think what we're going to see now is a debate about what to do now. And I think on those grounds, the balanced Obama approach, right, tax cuts for working people, investments in infrastructure, long-term R&D, education, and a glide path to bring the deficit under control is much more what the economy needs now and much more what voters want. I think he's in a strong position to get reelected this year.
Simon, do you think what the president has done and what he pledged his path forward would bring to America, has that come to fruition?
I think he's gotten a lot more done, and there's been a lot more progress than is commonly understood. When he took office, we were losing almost 700,000 jobs a month. We've now grown for 12 consecutive quarters. There is growth. It's not sufficient. I'm not going to be Pollyannish about this.
It's the worst recovery we've ever had in the history of the country since I believe the Depression.
It is a recovery, and when he came in, he was facing the worst economic conditions in 70 years. Things are clearly better. They're just not as good as they need to be.
Let me state it a different way, Peter, and you can react to this. If the president had campaigned in 2008 and said, by the end of my first term, voters, you're going to have a 1.5% GDP rate because my stimulus and my health care plan are going to bring this whole new era to the way to the way we're thinking about business in the United States. Do you think he would have been elected in 2008 with that campaign platform?
Certainly not. Folks would have translated that into an 8% unemployment rate. You know, this guy did not inherit the biggest hole of any post-war president. Ronald Reagan, inherited a terrible mess, and unemployment peaked at 10.4% for him, not 10% the way it did for Mr. Obama. At this point, Mr. Reagan had the economy growing at 6%, whereas Mr. Obama has it growing at 2%. He had gotten unemployment down to 7%. Mr. Obama has it above 8%. Simply, this guy didn't inherit a bigger mess. What he does is alibi better than anybody I've ever seen.
Well, why is Mitt Romney not ahead in every single poll and not ahead significantly if, in fact, things are as bad as you say, Peter, and that some economists are saying? I mean, Romney isn't certainly turning this into some big victory, at least not so far.
Well, there's two factors. One is that he has not done a good job of explaining how he would create jobs. Running around the country saying tax cuts and deregulation reminds folks too much of George Bush. And the other is he keeps committing these gaffes. I mean, we may take his comments about the Olympics in context, and in that context, they're just fine. However, you know, the press takes them out of context, and it isn't the only mistake he's made. The guy's simply got to do a better job of campaigning and explaining.
Do you think, Simon, by next quarter, we'll see greater growth? Do you think there's any signs on the horizon that indicate that things are getting better and significantly so?
Yeah, I think two things. One is I think the projections for the third quarter has GDP up over 2%, which means that the president will be able to say in that final month of the election the economy is getting better. He's not going to say it's great. He's never said that. He can say, though, it's getting better. And the second thing is I just want to agree with Peter for a second, which is Mitt Romney's struggle with making sense of things. I mean, if you look at what he's saying now about how he wants to create growth, he's saying we've got to get rid of this debt. You know, we've got to unleash the private sector, and yet his own plan for the economy increases the deficit by $2 trillion. Look at the three things that he's promoting right now: tax cuts, defense increases, rolling back Obamacare. All of those will explode a hole in the deficit much bigger than what President Obama has proposed. So he's not making any sense right now, which is one of the reasons I don't think he's connecting with the American people on the basic economic conversation that's so critical for this election.
Well, I think that the 35% approval rating that Barack Obama is getting from the business community is quite telling. I mean, you can't spin that number. I mean, 5 points here, 6 points there. But 35%, something is not clicking there with Obama and the free market. Gentlemen, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. And up next on the rundown, was the Obama campaign so rattled over this "you didn't build it" remark that he's now singing a completely different tune this week? We're going to play that. And later,